Welcome to the module Strategic Human Resource Management. So in this particular presentation, we're going to focus on the introductory part of the module as our topic number one. So this module is just an extension of human resource management, which is basically basics or introduction of human resource management. But in this particular module, it's more detailed and comprehensive in terms of being competitive in the organization, being competitive in the industry, etc. So by the end of this presentation, I expect you to define the concept of strategic human resource management and its significance in achieving organizational goals and competitive advantage. Identifying the key components of strategic human resource management, including workforce planning, talent acquisition, performance management, employee development and succession planning, and finally, understand the role of human resource management in aligning human capital strategies with the overall organizational objectives and the business strategy. So having looked at the learning outcome, now let us focus on the definition of strategic human resource management. So when talk of strategic human resource management, we are basically talking about alignment of human resource practices with organizational strategic goals. Every organization has a strategic goal to achieve. So it cannot achieve those goals if the human resource department is not aligning its practices with the overall objective of the organization. So when talk of human resource management in strategic term, we're talking about a proactive approach of managing human capital. So proactive means you act before things happen instead of being reactive. In an ordinary human resource setting, people are reactive. The managers are reactive. They respond to human resource problems as they arise. But in strategic human resource management, you don't need to wait for the problems to arise. You know, the human resource problems, we are talking about lack of motivation, we are talking about high turnover rate, we are talking about underperformance, etc. Then it also talk about the long term rather than the short term. Here we are focusing on the long term impact of the human resource on the organization instead of focusing on the short term. So the ordinary or the traditional human resource focuses on the short term, what the organization is to achieve in a very short term. But with the strategic, we are talking about 5 years, 10 years, even others can be 20 to 30 years. Then lastly, human resource management in strategic term is all about recognition that employees are valuable assets that can contribute to organization success. So here we look at each and every employee in an organization as an asset, not just people who are waiting for salary by the end of the month. It's about their contribution to the success of the organization. So basically, these are some of the definitions if we talk about strategic human resource management. So having looked at the definition of strategic human resource management, now let us focus on the benefits of human resource management in strategic term. Why is it very important for an organization to have a strategic aspect of human resource management? One is improved financial performance. The organization will make a lot of profits if the human resource department is very strategic. For example, if the organization is able to maintain few number of committed employees, it means they are going to save a lot of money in terms of salary given to hundreds of employees who are not performing, who are not doing enough to help the organization achieve its goals and objectives. So that's how organization can save money. Okay, you have less employees who are really doing their best, then you save money than having thousands of workers who are not doing the best. They become actually a burden to the organization. So by the end of the year or by the end of the day, the organization is going to be constrained financially because of the wage bill or salary bill. The next benefit is increased employee engagement. Employees will be more engaged in, let me talk about decision making, because decision making here, you have to at least consult the employees to seek their reactions or input before you decide as an organization. So that's about being strategic. Otherwise, in traditional or in ordinary setting, the organization does not need to consult employees. They wake up one day and then decide for the employees without necessarily engaging them. That is very bad. It means that the person who is having innovative idea might not be contributing to the organization decision-making process. So you need to open the ground for each and every employee in an organization to say his or her opinion. You never know. One person might have a productive ideas which can change the organization in terms of profit making, expansion, etc. The next benefit is enhanced employer brand. When we talk of employer brand, we're talking about the brand of the organization. If you are very strategic in managing human resource, of course, your brand will be the talk of the nation. Everyone will be wishing to work with the organization because of being strategic. But an organization which are not strategic, actually, they don't attract people. But whenever they hear about their names, they don't even feel like applying just because of poor human resource management practices in the organization. So the lesson for you as a human resource manager is to make sure that you build a very strong brand by making sure that people feel that they wish to work with your organization or in your organization. The next one is reduce turnover. Turnover is basically employees coming and leaving the organization, maybe because of poor working condition, because of poor management, etc. Labor turnover, in some books, it's called labor turnover. It is very dangerous in terms of spoiling organization's name. Okay, people are leaving the organization. They will say, this organization, they don't know how to manage employees. This organization, they're like that. They're paying employee poorly, etc. So, as a human resource manager, you need to make sure that you work strategically. How do you work strategically to maintain employees? One is, of course, by motivating them. Motivation is becoming a driving force. It determines whether you're going to retain employees or not. So, it's not about the salary you're giving to the employees, it's about how you motivate these people to work in your organization. So it's very important for you as a manager or organization to make sure that the element of motivation is in place, the element of training, whatever element related to human resource management is in place in order to avoid high labor turnover, because the turnover actually spoils the reputation of the organization. Then lastly, it improves competitiveness. The organization will become very competitive. If you look at the first point I explained about try to improve financial performance, if you are saving a lot of money, it means you are going to be competitive. Actually, one of the determinants of competitiveness is having money. If you have the cash, then you are going to be very competitive in the industry. If you especially working in a private sector, so if you do not have that enough financial muscle, then you are not competitive. You are going to be less competitive because one is you will not have the ability to buy the latest machines needed to produce products. You will not be having the money to pay a highly talented workforces. You will not be having money to engage in a marketing campaign, etc. So if you are strategic, that it means that you are technically or directly very competitive. So basically, these are some of the benefits of strategic human resource management in an organization. So having looked at the benefits of the strategic human resource management, now let us focus on some of the challenges uh, in human resource management in strategic term. One is getting buy-in from senior management. So the human resource manager or department is not the senior department in an organization, because we have other people who are above the human resource manager. For example, the country director, if you're working in a non-organizational setting, okay, non-government organizational setting rather, you have the country director, the international NGOs. If you're working with national NGOs, you have the executive directors, etc. These guys having power than the human resource manager. So for you to be strategic in your department, for example, if you're planning to empower your employees, if you're planning to maybe downsize, to reduce on the number of the employees, whereby you get out the people who are not productive in the organization, some of these top managers will not buy your ideas. Okay, they look at it as if you are not doing the right thing. So when they don't buy your ideas, of course, you will not be implementing them. So by doing that, it's becoming a challenge. It's becoming a challenge to to the organization, especially the human resource department. So what lesson do you learn from here? Before you start thinking of implementing any strategic plan of human resource, you need to make sure that you have the support from the top manager, because at the end of the day, they're supposed to finance. If it's about training the employees, they're supposed to finance them. If it's about increasing the employee salary, they are also the one to approve that your work is basically table proposed, and then they approve it. So you get support from them. The next challenge is aligning HR practice with organizational strategy is also a very big challenge. For example, some organizations, especially the private sectors, they are deeply in profit minded. They want to make profit. They are not much concerned about the welfare of their employees. But you, as the human resource manager, you are concerned with the welfare of the employees. So if your strategy is to make sure that every employee's welfare is taken care of, your strategy is to make sure that employees are highly motivated. Incentive plans are in place to motivate employees. But the organizational strategy is basically profit making. Then it's not going to work on your side. It's going to be challenging to you, because the strategy of the organization or the owners is profit making, whereas you are focusing on the employee welfare and the increment of the salary, which will not match. So it becomes a challenge. The last one is developing the skills and expertise needed in implementing strategic human resource practices. It's also a challenge. Okay, you need to get someone who's going to spearhead the process. What if that person is now being hired by your competitor or someone else? So that is the challenge. You'll be here developing someone, training the person so that the person works with you, but tomorrow you find that the person is leaving you to join another organization, maybe because the other organization is having better offer compared to what you are putting on the table. So these are some of the challenges of strategic human resource management in an organization. So having looked at that, now let us focus on the principles of strategic human resource management. Principle number one is comprehensiveness. So under comprehensiveness, have uh, you need to have different things combined in one. Comprehensive means not neglecting any element of human resource management. So here they're saying that the HR practices are intricately woven into fabric of organizational strategy. It means that it's starting from the recruitment, it's starting from even the job advert itself, up to the selection process, contract motivation, etc. You need to be very comprehensive, to not ignore any element, because when you ignore any element, it means that your overall objective will not be achieved. For example, let us talk about recruitment. Okay, if you ignore recruitment, then you want to focus on building strategic human resource, and then in your recruitment process, you are not doing enough to make sure that you recruit the competent employee in Anoga. That means you're going to end up recruiting people who are not competent enough, but you expect a lot from them. So that is principle of comprehensiveness. Then the next one is still under comprehensiveness is effective strategic human resource management ensures seamless alignment between talent management, performance management, rewards, and the recognition and overall business objective. These are different elements here. Talent management is basically, you can call it skill management. If you don't manage the skill of the employee, they will not be performing. So how do you manage the skill of the employee? Number one is by training them, okay, by appraising their performance to know how best to improve on them, etc. Then the performance management is basically setting targets or objectives to be achieved by the employees, and then measure it if it has been achieved or not. Then the rewards and the recognition is basically appreciation given to individual employees who have extremely done well or who have extremely performed well in an organizational setting. So these are some of the elements you need to look at under principle number one, which is the comprehensiveness. So the next principle of strategic human resource management is coherence. So under coherence, we are talking about the HR activities are valuable, but they are too powerless in their interconnectedness. So when we talk of interconnectedness, we're talking about togetherness, working together as a team. That is very important. You cannot work alone as a human resource manager in order to realize the profit the organization needs. No. You need to work with the marketing department. You need to work with the finance department. You need to work with the logistics. It is even the security department. You need to work with these people. And in single department, for example, the finance, you have very many employees. You have the finance manager, depending on the size of the organization. You have the finance officer, the accountant, etc. So they have to work together. Okay, if you want to be strategic, you need to consider the role of each and everyone in an organization in order to realize the profit the organization is yearning to have. So that's principle number two when you talk about coherence. The next one is under principle number two is the strategic human resource management champions the integration of HR practices, creating a unified system that drives performance and fosters employees engagement. So it's all about now unity. The first one we talk about teamwork. Here now we're talking about unity. The difference between teamwork and unity is with the teamwork, you can work as a team, but with unity, you might find that in a team, people are not even united. It happens. Okay. In a team of human resource management or in a team of the logistic department, you find some people doing their own things. Then there's no an element of unification. So you need to make sure that you unite these people so that the organization realizes what it ought to achieve. So that's about unity and the teamwork. These are two different things. You can be in the team but doing different things, but you need to be also in a team doing the same thing. So that's about principle number two of coherence. Now let us move to the next principle, which is the principle of control. So effective human resource management or strategic implementation requires reverse control mechanism to track progress and measure impact. So if you don't control employees, of course, they will not perform to their expectation. Control mechanism is very important. It does not mean you don't trust the employees, but that is the formal way of doing things. Okay, you need to track progress. If you set targets to achieve, you need to track progress. How have the targets been achieved? What could be the challenges? Okay, and how will you address the challenges? You cannot address the challenge if you don't know exactly what the problem is. So as human resource manager, you need to make sure that the control mechanism is in place to make sure that employees are working within the standard. No one should work outside the standard. Then tracking progress is very important. You will know when the work is going on or not, and know the exact cause of if the work is not going well. Then come up with strategies to make sure that you improve on that, and then the work moves on well. That's about control number one. Then under control is number two. We have metrics, data analysis, and regular evaluations ensure HR practices stay on course and they contribute to desired outcomes. So in terms of evaluation, you can talk about it in terms of appraising the performance of the employees. Okay, that's actually another element of control. You appraise the performance and see where the problem is. And performance appraisal or the evaluation is very important because the employees will work extra hard or extremely hard to make sure that they are not underrated when they are evaluating the performance of the employees. So these are some of the principles you need to look at. And principle number three, which is the control. Then the next principle is the communication. Open and transparent communication is the cornerstone of successful strategic human resource implementation. Communication helps in very many ways. Number one is that it helps to communicate clearly to the employees what is expected of them. That is communication. You cannot be strategic and then you don't communicate to your employees. How will they know what is expected of them if you don't pass the information to them? So it is through communication that they'll be able to know what is expected of them and when. So communication also helps to give feedback to the employees, especially after the performance appraisal is done. The feedback has to be given to the employees. The feedback helps them a lot in terms of putting more efforts in the areas of underperformance. They put more effort, but if you don't communicate to them about their performance after appraising the performance, then there will be no improvement since they don't know how their performance have been. So that's about communication. It's still under communication, we are talking about initiatives and their impact on employees, fostering understanding and trust. So you need to have a clear strategies of telling the employees what is expected of them. Okay, so here they're saying that the HR must effectively communicate strategic goals, HR initiatives, and their impact on employees, fostering understanding and trust. So if you communicate to the employees, they will be able to trust you. But if you don't communicate to them, how will they trust you? You are keeping things for yourself. You're not open. You're not transparent to them. They will never trust you. But as a manager, if you come up and they clearly explain to them the goals, this is what we are going to achieve, and this is how we are going to achieve it, they will, of course, trust you. Okay, you need to have initiative in place. If it's about taking them for training, you need to also communicate to them clearly in advance that this category of employees are going to be taken for training and where, when, all this is important. And then also the impact of the training it might have on the employee. It has to be communicated to them in terms of the learning outcome. So these are some of the elements of communication as a principle of strategic human resource management. Then the next principle is principle number 5, which is about credibility. So you need to build trust between the HR and the workforce. Is fundamental to successful strategic human resource implementation. So when we talk of the HR and the workforce, the HR is basically uh, organization in nature when you talk of in this particular context. So the workforce is now the employees. So there should be trust between the workforce, which is the employees of the organization, and then the department, which is the human resource. So if you have the human resource and then the workforce, which are not having trust, then there will not be a strategic element of human resource management because it's about trust. If the employees trust what the department is doing, then the department trusts the workforce, then everything will be okay. But if the HR department does not trust the workforce, and the workforce at the same time does not trust the HR department, then you are making no progress. No progress, no profit, no nothing. So by the end of the day, the organization is going to decline or collapse. So it's still under credibility. You need to be transparent, honest, and delivery on promises. If you have promised to promote high performing employees, you need to fulfill that. That's being honest. Okay. Don't make a promise that we are going to take you for training and then you don't fulfill it. That one leads to mistrust. They will never trust you. Whatever thing you tell them, they'll say, last time you talked about this, what did you do about it? Nothing. So these are people, these are mature people you're dealing with. So you need to make sure that you live by your promise. When you promise to take someone for training, do that. If you promise to promote someone to a higher office because of his or her performance, do that. All this is to make sure that you build the trust, is to make sure that you are honest, etc. So that's about credibility as a principle of strategic human resource management. So, having looked at that, now let us look at the evolution of human resource management, okay, or the evolution of strategic human resource management. We are starting with the early days, which is called transactional human resource management, and that's from 1900 to 1950. So, we are focusing on the characteristics during that period. One is the focus on administrative tasks. When talk about administrative tasks, we are basically talking about the payroll, the record keeping, benefits administration, etc. So the HR department by then was only focusing on payment of employees, nothing. Okay, the record keeping is maybe you are in discipline cases, uh, whether you have been coming to work or not, the time, basically record keeping. Maybe you other data related to your performance. So they care less about training, they care less about motivation, they care less about welfare of the staff. So it's basically administrative work. That's about 1900 to 1950s. Then still under that period, there's what we call reactive approach. Okay. So reactive approach means responding to the HR problems as they arise. The HR problem I've already explained to you, labor turnover. Okay. People are leaving the organization, then they respond to that. How do they respond to that? Two people have resigned today, maybe they'll think of replacing them. That's being reactive. Okay. People are not motivated, then they will act on trying to motivate people. People are not satisfied with their job. That's what we call job dissatisfaction. Okay. It could be because of motivation, it could be because of unfriendly working environment, etc. Then they will act. So that is about 1900 to 1950. Then lastly, under the early days, which you call it transactional human resource management, is a limited strategic impact. So viewed as cost center rather than a value creator. So they look at employees as cost centers. It means liability. Okay, because every month they're paying salary. So they don't look at that perspective that you are someone who's valuable to the organization. The month is ending, they think of this one is coming to pick money. They don't see any value in employees, but what they see is rather cost. So that's the characteristic of the transactional human resource management era. So the next stage in the evolution of human resource management is now the shift to human relations. That is from 1950s to 1970s. Under that, we have the recognition of human element in workplace. So this is where people now start motivating employee and engaging employee in some of the activities within the organization. Okay, motivation can be in terms of training. It can be in terms of having friendly working environment. It can be in terms of job satisfaction. They make sure that employees are satisfied with their job. It can be also in terms of employee welfare. So these are some of the elements of motivation from 1950s to 1970s. So that is called the shift to human relations, from transactional now to human relations. So it's still under human relation. There was introduction of training and development programs to enhance employee skills. Because of the human relation, because of motivation, like I've explained to you already, you cannot talk about motivation when employees are not trained. You cannot talk about motivation when employees' welfare is not taken care of. So they started now developing such programs to make sure that employee skills are updated. Then last one under human relations is that there was increased focus on compliance with labor laws and the regulations. So the organization, the employers are now compliant. They can comply with some of the labor laws. If it's about the wage law, the salary law, the equipment, etc., they started now complying. So that is from 1950s to 1970s under human relations. So the next one is the rise of human resource management now from 1980s to 1990s. So under the rise of human resource management, employees are viewed as valuable assets now. You can see the chronology. The first one, it was just administrative work. The second one, now human relation aspect comes in with the motivation, etc. Now we're talking about valuing employees. So we talk about talent acquisition now. Okay. So the organization is more of looking for more skilled people. And when you're looking for more skilled people, it means you are going to spend big on them. Then the retention. Retention is to address the problem of labor turnover. You need to make sure that you retain the employees you have. And one of the hardest thing to do nowadays is retention because of the nature of the job market. People are offering different payment structure. So employees are now looking for where they can be paid highly. Okay, employees are now looking for where the working environment is conducive. They end up resigning. So you cannot do anything to retain someone who has already made up his or her mind to leave the organization. So it's becoming very challenging nowadays to the human resource managers to retain employees. Then you also have development, which I've talked about. Employee development can be in terms of the skills they are gaining. It can be in terms of the number of years they've spent with you. It can be in terms of even advancement in career, etc. So that's an element of development. So if you have someone who has accumulated different skills, academic qualification, etc., that is what we call employee development. Still under the rise of human resource management 1980s, 1990s, we're talking about alignment of HR practice with business strategies. We're talking about linking people practices now to organizational goals. So what are the people practices we are talking about here? The people practice we are talking about here is the way they do things in the organization, the job description, okay? Their performances is what we are talking about, linking it to the organizational goal. What does the organization want to achieve, and what do people do in the organization to make sure that such goals are achieved? So that is under the rise of human resource management. Then we have a performance management system implemented to track progress and measure impact. Some organizations they appraise the employees annually, I mean every year. Then others do it quarterly. After 6 months, they, 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 they appraise the performance of the employees. Okay, even others after 3 months. It depends on the organizational policies of appraising the employees. So it helps a lot in making sure that someone is really having impact on the organization. But if your performance is, of course, under the expectation, it means that, of course, you have negative impact on the organization, whereby the organization is spending a lot of money on you when you're not productive. So this is common with the private sectors. They appraise a lot the performance of the employees because they don't want to pay salary to people who are underperforming. So that's about the rise of human resource management, 1980s to 1960s, I mean 1990s. The next one now is the era of strategic human resource management. That is 2000s to present now where we are. We are now in the era of the strategic human resource management. So as a strategic partner, we are looking at human resource or the employees in an organization as a strategic partner. It's not just about their performance or the daily work they do, but it's all about working with them to achieve the end goal. So collaborating with the leadership to shape organizational culture and they achieve goals. So when they look at employees, they look at them as a partner, not just like an ordinary employee. So that's what you need to do as the human resource managers. Look at your your employees as your partners. Okay. Don't look at them as just ordinary employee or workers. Then data-driven decision making. So nowadays, organizations they are keeping records, data of the employees, okay, the performances, the way they do things in an organization, the academic qualifications and other trainings they have obtained, all that. They have the system of getting those data or those information. So the decision is made based on the data. If the organization is deciding to promote you, they must have dig deep into a record. They must have done a lot of background check research to make sure that you are the right person for the job. Then focus on building a competitive advantage through talent management and development. So talent management is becoming a key component of strategic human resource management these days because of the nature of the job market. People are looking for talented workers, talented employees. So if you don't manage your own, then it's difficult for you to get the one you want to, because it might be expensive to hire that person. And even if that person comes, another organization will come with a higher amount of money, then the person will end up also going. So it's up to you, the human resource manager, to make sure that you develop the one you already have. Homemade is better than what you're going to seek outside. Because this person, if he also is to leave the organization, it might take time for that person to decide based on the history you have together, based on the support given to such an employee. So that's about about the strategic human resource management to present. So that is what I had for you in this presentation. Thank you so much for watching, and let us link up in the next presentation.